The Godfather is considered one of the greatest films of all time, becoming an instant classic when it released in 1972. What most people don't know is that it never would have been made without the Mafia's permission and support. In fact, they almost stopped production on the film entirely. The author of the Godfather novel, Mario Puzo, was often assumed to have connections to organized crime. How else could he have painted such a rich portrait of that world? He emphatically denied this claim, insisting the novel's accuracy was based on exhaustive research alone. I never met a real honest-to-God gangster. I knew the gambling world pretty good, but that's all. After the book became famous, I was introduced to a few gentlemen related to the material. They were flattering. They refused to believe that I had never been in the rackets. They refused to believe that I had never had the confidence of a Don, but all of them loved the book. As it turns out, Puzo's sources in the gambling world were directly connected to the Mafia. It was an open secret that casinos in Las Vegas were controlled by the mob. Puzo, a lifelong gambling addict, had come up with a brilliant idea. He could gamble in Vegas and do research for The Godfather at the same time. Little did he know he almost wouldn't make it out of Vegas alive. His first stop in Vegas was the Sands Casino, the stomping ground of legends such as Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, and where the original Ocean's 11 was filmed. According to former Sands casino manager Ed Walters, Puzo spent a great deal of time extracting information from casino employees. While placing bets at the roulette table, Puzo started asking dealers all manner of questions about the Mafia. This got the attention of Walters, who was a pit boss at the time. Once it was verified Puzo was writing a fictional book on the Mafia and not a journalist looking to cause trouble, Walters started to selectively answer his questions, provided he kept gambling. Puzo eventually ran out of cash and had to ask for a line of credit, which was quickly approved by management. After racking up $13,000 in debt, he went over to the Tropicana casino and managed to go even further in the hole. The guys at the Tropicana, who Walters described as a, quote, rough fucking crew, warned him not to leave town without paying his debts. Puzo asked Walters if he should be concerned about the threats. Walters told him that as long as he didn't leave Vegas without paying his debts, no one would touch him. If he tried to leave, however, all bets were off. In those days, we had a rule that there would be no contracts played out in Las Vegas. That was the rule. No one was ever, let's just say, hurt or damaged in Las Vegas. Out in Lake Mead or in the desert, that's something different. Puzo had already sold the movie rights for The Godfather to Paramount Pictures and reached out to studio head Robert Evans for help. Evans flew out to Vegas and met with the respective casino managers. Evans convinced the Sands to let this guy go back to New York and everyone would end up getting paid. And it turns out everybody did. With the matter settled, Puzo was allowed to leave Vegas and get back to work on his novel. Upon release, The Godfather became an international bestseller and the film quickly went into pre-production. The problems began almost immediately. Paramount was threatened with strikes, boycotts, and demonstrations from various organizations. There were constant death threats as well. Anonymous men would routinely call producer Al Ruddy and threaten to kill him, so he started keeping a loaded .45 in his desk for protection. His assistant was also threatened, with one caller promising to abduct her son from military school. Then the threats became even more menacing. After work one day, Ruddy switched cars with his assistant, who was followed home by men she didn't recognize. She called the cops, but the men took off before the police got there. In the middle of the night, she heard gunshots, and the next morning found all the car windows shattered. The attackers left a note warning them to stop working on the film. After the incident, Ruddy flew to New York City and started working out of the Gulf and Western building, which was the parent company of Paramount. Unfortunately, he wasn't much safer there. The building was evacuated twice for bomb threats, and Ruddy was forced to wear a disguise whenever he left. The Italian-American Civil Rights League finally brought the Mafia's shadow war out into the open. The League was ostensibly dedicated to changing how Italians were portrayed in popular culture. Its founder and spokesman, Joe Colombo, was ironically head of one of the most powerful crime families in New York. Unlike most Mafia dons, he wasn't afraid of publicity. In fact, he welcomed it, openly speaking to the press while denying any connection to organized crime. There is not a Mafia. Am I head of a family? Yes. My wife and 4 sons and a daughter. That's my family. The League's most immediate goal was removing any mention of the word mafia from public discussion. They were already partially successful, pressuring the Justice Department, New York State Police, and some newspapers to stop using the term. Off the back of these victories, they set their sights on The Godfather. Years later, Columbo's son Anthony insisted they weren't responsible for the death threats against Paramount, simply because they weren't necessary. The truth was, we didn't need to make threats to stop the picture. If we didn't want it made in New York, it wouldn't have been made, period. At the time, the League had over 40,000 members, and the majority of them were blue-collar workers who believed in the power of protest. The entire Italian-American community was waiting to hear our next move on the picture. Through the League's influence, the Teamsters Union, representing truckers and other crew associated with the film's production, threatened to go on strike. All 62 locations previously secured for shooting, including businesses, hospitals, and funeral parlors, withdrew their support. If filming was to go forward, it was understood someone from Paramount would have to meet with the League and come to an agreement. Actor James Caan used his underworld connections to set up the initial meeting. After several conversations, producer Al Ruddy agreed to every one of Columbo's demands, which included removing all mentions of Cosa Nostra and Mafia from the script, or anything else the League felt was damaging to Italian Americans. Ruddy even offered to let him read the script, but Columbo gave up before finishing the first page. He told Ruddy he trusted him and never asked about the script again. What Columbo didn't know was that the Mafia was only mentioned once in the script, and it changed almost nothing by removing it. Ruddy still had one major problem. One of the homeowners on the estate being used for the Corleone compound wouldn't agree to filming. He was concerned about his property being used in a gangster movie. Ruddy was desperate to secure the location and asked Columbo to intervene on his behalf. Columbo arranged a meeting with the homeowner at a local diner. Ruddy sat down with the guy and promised not to harm one blade of grass on his property, and even offered $25,000 for his son's education. He was still reluctant, at which point Columbo asked Ruddy for a pen. Columbo handed it to the homeowner and said, "Sign the thing. It's good for our people." Years later, Ruddy expressed regret over the incident. The guy started shaking. I felt guilty, like a heavy. The pen almost went through the paper, he pressed so hard. The Mafia also helped solve a major casting problem. Before Al Pacino auditioned for the role of Michael Corleone, he was cast in the MGM film The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. Robert Evans called the head of MGM, Jim Aubrey, hoping to work something out. Aubrey refused to budge and hung up on him. Running out of options, Evans called mob lawyer Sidney Korshak for help. Korshak threatened Aubrey with union problems if Pacino wasn't released from the film. Backed into a corner, he reluctantly let Pacino go. Speaking of casting, some of the actors came directly from the ranks of the Mafia. Gianni Russo, who played Connie's husband Carlo in the film, had worked as a messenger for mob boss Frank Costello, who was one of the inspirations for Don Corleone. At one point, he was making regular pickups at the Vegas casinos, transporting millions of dollars in skimmed cash to various mafia bosses around the country. An unknown actor, Russo was determined to get a part in the film. He paid for his own screen tests and sent them to Evans with a Vegas showgirl driving a Bentley, thinking he would be impressed. When that didn't work, he used his mafia connections to lean on the head of Gulf and Western, Charlie Bluedorn, who himself had powerful friends in organized crime. Needless to say, he got the part. Actor Marlon Brando, who played Don Corleone, almost ruined it for him. Brando, who was considered the greatest actor of his generation, didn't pay much attention to Russo at first. Then, during rehearsal one day, Brando came over and started asking him about his education and acting experience. Once he realized Russo was an unknown with little formal training, he started openly questioning the wisdom of casting him in front of director Francis Ford Coppola. Russo had fought hard for this role, and he wasn't going to give it up so easily. I put my arm around Brando, and I walked him in the back room. I didn't want to embarrass him. And I'm face to face with him. Our noses are almost touching. And I said, "Mr. Brando, all due respect, I know who you are. Don't fuck this up for me. Do you hear me? If you screw this up for me, and I get fired, and I lose this part, I will suck on your heart, and you will bleed out right here." He stepped back for a minute, looked at me, and said, That was beautiful. You could do this part. He thought I was acting, but I meant it. Russo wasn't the only actor with a background in organized crime. Lenny Montana, who played the Godfather's towering enforcer Luca Brasi, was a former professional wrestler turned bodyguard, debt collector, and arsonist for the Colombo family. As Russo put it, if you were late, they would send Lenny Montana to collect the vig on loan sharking money and threaten deadbeat bookmakers. He'd walk in and they'd run to get the money. He was spotted one day by Al Ruddy in Brooklyn while they were shooting a scene. One look and Ruddy knew Montana would be perfect for the character. Other actors had close friends and family in the Mafia and were intimately familiar with that world. Al Lettieri, who played Virgil Sollozzo, had to receive permission from his brother-in-law Patsy Eboli to be in the film. Eboli was a capo in the Genovese crime family and would often send bodyguards with Lettieri to keep tabs on him. It was Lettieri who showed Pacino how to handle a gun and speak Italian for the scene where Michael kills the Turk and Captain McCluskey. James Caan, despite being Jewish, knew quite a few Italian gangsters. He was particularly close with Andrew Russo, a capo in the Colombo family who eventually became acting boss. He also knew the underboss of the Colombo family, Carmine Persico, who was being closely watched by the FBI. Not knowing he was an actor, the FBI assumed Caan was just another up-and-coming mobster. He would spend time with other gangster friends as well, trying to learn their mannerisms and speech to help develop his character. Caan didn't shy away from the connection. I had some friends. I don't condone crime, and I don't know of any dishonorable things they did, but I know they weren't shoemakers or bankers or whatever. Like Gianni Russo, Al Martino desperately wanted to be in the film. He was confident he could play the part of Johnny Fontaine, a past-his-prime singer looking to revitalize his career using Mafia connections. There was one problem. He couldn't get an audition. To secure the role, Martino spent $20,000 on a private party in Vegas for Francis Ford Coppola, Al Ruddy, and Mario Puzo, complete with showgirls and booze. When that didn't work, he turned to more unsavory means. In a case of life imitating art, Martino called on mob boss Russ Bufalino to help him get the part. Didn't the Don send Tom Hagen to convince Jack Waltz that Johnny Fontaine must be in the movie? Well, I had to convince Coppola that I would be in this movie. Waltz didn't want Johnny, and Coppola didn't want me. There was no horse's head in the bed, but I had ammunition. In return for their cooperation and support, the Mafia was granted special access to the production. On several occasions, gangsters would come on set during shooting so they could watch the performances. They were particularly enthusiastic about Brando's scenes, clapping loudly between takes. Even the head of the Gambino family, Carlo Gambino, visited the set one afternoon. Unfortunately, Wise Guys weren't invited to the film's official premiere. Instead, Ruddy snuck a printout at Paramount and arranged a special screening. There must have been 100 limousines out front. The projectionist called me and said, "Mr. Ruddy, I've been a projectionist my whole life. No one ever gave me a $1,000 tip." That's how much the guys loved the movie. The film not only struck a chord with the Mafia, American moviegoers were entranced as well. The epic story about family and honor resonated with them, especially in contrast to the corporate and government organizations that dominated their lives. For Coppola, The Godfather is as much a film about American society as it is about the Mafia. Both the Mafia and America feel they are benevolent organizations. Both the Mafia and America have their hands stained with blood from what it is necessary to do to protect their power and interests. Both are totally capitalistic phenomena and basically have a profit motive. The difference for Coppola is that America can't be trusted. I feel that America does not take care of its people. America misuses and shortchanges its people. We look to our country as our protector, and it's fooling us. It's lying to us. The Godfather is a seemingly timeless film. Perhaps now more than ever, we all wish there was a Godfather we could turn to for help. Someone who could offer protection and give us justice. Now who's being naive, Kay?